Graham back here with Lesson 6 of the Nutrition Academy's final diet program. And today's lesson is entitled Metabolic Madness, What Happens During Exercise. And specifically, the crux of today's lesson, we're going to look at some of the differences between males and females as it pertains to exercise. Now, one of the unfortunate byproducts of going on a diet is that over time metabolism seems to slow down. So initially we get these fantastic results, but after a few weeks or a couple of months, we stop seeing progress. And why is that? Well, the first part of the answer comes from a little study that was actually done with some chimpanzees. And these chimpanzees had to undergo a 30% calorie restriction, so they went on a significant diet. Now you'd think that cutting out almost a third of someone's calories, or a chimpanzee's calories in this case, would cause them to lose a lot of weight. But as we can see on the graph on the left, they actually didn't lose anything for that entire first month. But how is that possible? Well, it turns out that these chimpanzees spontaneously reduced their physical activity in order to prevent any meaningful body fat loss. So think about that for a second. You're trying hard, you're following a diet, and then suddenly your metabolism is deciding it's going to do something else. The fact of the matter is, we're not designed to lose body fat. I guess we could also say we're not really designed to gain massive amounts of body fat either, but we're pretty good at that side. But clearly, our bodies like to hold on to what we got. So if we're really looking to develop a strategy for long-term weight loss, we're going to have to outsmart our metabolism. Alright, but again, we can always say that's just chimpanzees, and maybe humans are a little different. So let's take a look. Okay, here's another 6-month exercise study, so that's a good long time. We've got a good number of participants. These happen to be young females. They're about 30% body fat to start. We're actually going to give them a diet plan to follow, which is basically they're going to follow the food pyramid. So again, designed by scientists, allegedly. And we're also going to make them do 14 hours of physical activity every week. Now that's quite a lot of physical activity, and no one listening to this video right now is anywhere close to that. So what happened at the end of 6 months? Well, there was a bunch of good news. All these females dramatically enhanced their cardiovascular fitness, became stronger, had better muscle endurance, their agility improved, flexibility improved. Unfortunately, in all the measures of body composition, their body weight went up, their waist circumference went up, their hip circumference went up, and their overall body fat increased. So think about that for a second. 14 hours of physical activity a week, and we couldn't get these females to lose any body fat? What's going on? Well, it turns out there's some pretty significant differences between males and females. Now, a lot of the early exercise studies which showed it to be pretty effective for weight loss were done in young males. Now, young males are the most responsive to any exercise stimulus if we were to take a segment of the population. Let's just look at what happens in response to physical activity. In men, once they become physically active, they often experience a little bit of a decreased appetite, whereas females, there's no real change in appetite. On the flip side, men don't have any real change in their energy-regulating hormones, but look at females, a huge change in their body signal. So all of a sudden, it's a stressful experience, and they're being put into conservation mode. Well, since men don't have an increased appetite, and there's no real change in their hormones, they don't change what they're eating. Females, often there's a mild increase in energy intake, or perhaps better described as an increase in energy conservation. And so over time, men are able to decrease body fat by doing more physical activity, but females, it's often not the case. So again, what is really going on that makes it so dramatically different for females than it does for males? We've got to figure this out. Okay. But before we answer that question, we do have to treat some pretty significant logic errors that everyone makes. Now, a lot of the problems with dieting and weight loss are in fact psychological, but scientists are also partially to blame. Let me explain why. Now, if we look at a typical exercise study, it might look something like this. You know, we've got people exercising for 12 weeks. They're going to be doing 5 exercise sessions per week, burning 500 calories, and at the end of it we've got all our subjects plotted out on a graph, 30 people, and then we're just going to take the average, and what does it tell us? Well, the average weight loss, 3.5, 4 kilos. So we conclude this exercise protocol only results in, a 3.5 kilo weight loss. But if we look to the left, we see some individuals losing 14, 12 kilos, 10 kilos. That's a significant change for these individuals. For them, this protocol was amazing. But flip it around, let's look at the other side of the graph. We actually have some individuals who got fatter. Think about it. 60 hours of exercise, and they wind up gaining weight? Is it even possible? Well, yes and no. Okay, it turns out that a section of the population are actually compensators. And it's probably more people than we think. When I say compensator, it basically means that in response to exercise, these individuals' hunger, real or imagined, dramatically increased and caused them to overeat more calories than they were expending through exercise. Now, maybe on a more personal level, there's a lot of people who go to the gym and think that because I've worked out today, I can have some ice cream or I can eat poorly. But that is not at all what exercise does. Let's just think about some simple math here. It takes about 30 minutes of running on the treadmill to burn 300 calories. And in about 30 seconds, you can eat a chocolate bar. It also gives you about 300 calories. So if we're trying to use exercise as a means to, correct mistakes we're making in our diet, it's always going to lead us to failure. Sorry to break it to you. And again, if everything we decide to do is based on population averages, we're really neglecting the fact that there's this wide spread of individual differences, and we need to start looking at what kind of strategies are appropriate for who, instead of trying to find a one-size-fits-all approach. When we think about the averages, we're always only going to get average results. So it's really about optimizing our own personal strategy here.